Welcome to the Top 10 at 10. I'm your host, Daniel Wright, writer of FireDogLink.com, and these are the top 10 news stories. Sorry, a little technical issue there. Story number 10, China poised to pass US as world's leading economic power this year. It's from Financial Times. The US is on the brink of losing its status as the world's largest economy and is likely to slip behind China this year sooner than widely anticipated. According to the world's leading statistical agencies, the U.S. has been the global leader since overtaking the U.K. in 1872. It's quite a run. Most economists previously thought China would pull ahead in 2019. The figures compiled by the International Comparison Program hosted by the World Bank are the most authoritative estimates of what money can buy in different countries and are used by most public and private sector organizations such as the International Monetary Fund. This is the first time they have been updated since 2005. After extensive research on the prices of goods and services, the ICP concluded that money goes further in poorer countries than it previously thought, prompting it to increase the relative size of emerging market economies. How about that? The estimates of the real cost of living, known as purchasing power parity, or PPP, are recognized as the best way to compare the size of economies rather than using volatile exchange rates, which rarely reflect the true costs of goods and services. On this measure, the IMF put U.S. GDP in 2012 at 16.2 trillion, and China's at 8.2 trillion. In 2005, the ICP thought China's economy was less than half the size of the U.S., accounting for only 43% of America's total. Because of the new methodology and the fact that China's economy has grown much more quickly, the research placed China's GDP at 87% of the U.S. in 2011. So here's China is set to become the world's largest economy a lot sooner than a lot of people thought. I guess they should thank us for giving them our manufacturing sector. So I don't know if this is good news or bad news. It certainly presents a backdrop for the quote pivot to Asia, where U.S. is putting military forces all around Asia. It just signed an agreement with Australia, and even this week it signed one with the Philippines to put U.S. military assets all around East Asia, and then combine that with the TPP, the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and you see that China is becoming the largest economy in the world, and the U.S. is kind of encircling them. Story number 9, Congressman Bundy militia has set up road checkpoints in Nevada. This is from Talking Points memo. A Democratic congressman from Nevada said in a letter this week that his constituents have reported the armed militia supporting rancher Cliven Bundy has set up checkpoints to verify the residency of anybody passing through. Representative Stephen Horsford, D. Nevada, who represents the area, sent the letter Sunday to Clark County Sheriff Doug Gillespie, asking him to investigate. I'm writing to bring this to your attention to the ongoing situation in northeastern Clark County, which has caused many of my constituents to fear for their safety. Horsford wrote, residents in the area, quote, have expressed concern over the continual presence of multiple out-of-state armed militia groups that have remained in the community since Bundy's dispute with the Bureau of Land Management came to a boil. The militia, as reported by Horsford's comments, have set up checkpoints where residents are required to prove they live in the area before they're allowed to pass. So illegal checkpoints. This really is getting to that getting that insurgency feel to it. Problem now is once the feds have backed down, will they back down again now that illegal checkpoints are being set up? This is not going to end well. Story number 8 from the New York Times. Oops. Justices back rule limiting coal pollution. In a majority victory for the Obama administration, the Supreme Court on Tuesday upheld the authority of the Environmental Protection Agency to regulate the smog from coal plants that drift across state lines from 28 Midwestern and Appalachian states to the East Coast. The 6-2 ruling bolsters the centerpiece of President Obama's environmental agenda, a series of new regulations aimed at cutting pollution from coal-fired power plants Republicans in the coal industry have criticized the regulations, which use the Clean Air Act as their legal authority, as a war on coal. Not really as strong as the war on women, FYI. The industry has waged an aggressive legal battle to undo the rules. Legal experts said the decision written by Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg signals that the Obama administration's efforts to use the Clean Air Act to fight global warming could withstand legal challenges. In June, the EPA is expected to propose sweeping new Clean Air Act regulation to cut emissions of carbon dioxide, the heat-trapping greenhouse gas that scientists say is the chief cause of climate change. Coal plants are the biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the United States. So a rare win, or a rare loss, I should say, for the business community in the Roberts Court. 6-2. I'm putting my math on. That means somebody, I guess, abstained. Story number 7 from the Los Angeles Times. Oklahoma halts double execution after one is botched. Controversial double execution in Oklahoma was scrubbed Tuesday night after the first inmate to receive an experimental 3-drug cocktail writhed and grimaced on the gurney, struggled to lift his head, and died of a heart attack more than 40 minutes later. Jeez. Clayton Lockett's bizarre death came after a constitutional showdown in Oklahoma over state execution secrecy laws. It is likely to provoke strong criticism from death penalty critics at a time when similar policies for lethal injections have come under fire across the nation. The botched execution will have a huge effect, Deborah Dino, a professor of Fordham Law School and a death penalty expert, told the Los Angeles Times. The entire world was watching this execution. According to reporters at the scene, Lockett, 38, received the first dose of the 3-drug cocktail at 6:23 p.m. The drug was midazolam, which causes unconsciousness, visceranim bromide, which stops respiration, and potassium chloride, which stops the heart. I knew that one. They are administered in that order. The state has said the procedure is meant to involve 3 doctors with handheld syringes injecting the drugs into IV lines in both the inmates' arms. Jeez, that little breakdown here. He was conscious, blinking, licking his lips even after the process began. He then began to seize. Prison officials said they tried to get Lockett to a hospital to resuscitate him. He died inside the execution chamber at 7:06 p.m. of a massive heart attack. Spokesman for the Oklahoma Department of Corrections, citing comments by the department's director, Robert Patton, confirmed to the Los Angeles Times that Lockett did not die immediately after the lethal injection was administered. Quote, the director did say that it appears that a vein in Lockett's body blew up or exploded. It collapsed, and the drugs were not getting into the system like they were supposed to. Oh, I guess that makes it better. Story number 6, let's just move on, from NBC. Trampoline to space, Russia officials tell NASA to take a flying leap. Russian Deputy Prime Minister Dmitry Rogozin, a target of U.S. sanctions sparked by the Ukraine crisis, said Tuesday that those sanctions would boomerang against American space effort and essentially told NASA to take a flying leap on a trampoline. Okay. Quote, after analyzing the sanctions against our space industry, I suggest to the USA to bring their astronauts to the International Space Station using a trampoline, Rogozin said via his Russia-language Twitter account. The tart tweet came after news reports in which Rogozin, who is in charge of the Russian space program, was quoted as saying sanctions against Russia would have a negative effect on NASA, as well as Europe's space effort. Essentially, the Americans want to clear us out of the space services market, he said. Russian rockets are being used to launch European satellites as well as NASA astronauts, he noted. Quote, I am sick and tired of these sanctions, to be honest, unquote. He told the journalists in the Crimean city, Simferopol, which is part of Ukraine until Crimea was annexed by Russia last month. So, casualty of the Ukraine crisis, trips to space. Story number 5. White House opens doors to tolls on interstate highways, removing long-standing prohibition. Oh my God, please no. With pressure mounting to avert a transportation funding crisis this summer, the Obama administration Tuesday opened the door for states to collect tolls on interstate highways to raise revenue for roadway repairs. The proposal, contained in a 4-year, $302 billion White House transportation bill, would reverse a long-standing federal prohibition on most interstate tolling. Though some older segments of the network, notably the Pennsylvania and New Jersey turnpikes and Interstate 95 in Maryland and Virginia, are toll roads, most of the 46,876-mile system has been toll-free. We believe this is an area where the states have to make their own decisions. Yeah, it's annoying enough using toll roads up here. If you drive out anywhere else in the country, it's actually rather nice because there's no tolls. Are they going to get rid of that? Once you let the governments do this, though, they're never going to stop. It's too lucrative, and people have no choice but to use the highways for the most part. Story number 4, that's from USA Today. Senator, email show how Benghazi story shaped. Yes, the Benghazi story that will never die. It will never die. Republicans say emails released Tuesday on the attack in Benghazi, Libya include, quote, the smoking gun, unquote, that shows a White House official urged that the assault on the U.S. consulate be blamed on a protest that never happened. The emails obtained by conservative watchdog group Judicial Watch through a Freedom of Information Act request include one in which White House official Ben Rhodes lists goals for then UN Ambassador Susan Rice to meet in explaining the attack and protests occurring across the Middle East. That week, to the American public, Ambassador Chris Stevens and 3 other Americans died in the assault, while the White House subsequently acknowledged it was an al-Qaeda-linked terror attack. So we're going to do another round of Benghazi stories, I guess. This time involving Ben Rhodes. Oh well. Story number 3, Harry Reid debating Keystone vote. Senate Democrats are trying to negotiate a vote to approve the Keystone XL pipeline as soon as next week. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid said Tuesday, Reid said he is, quote, open to anything, unquote, on Keystone that will move forward an energy efficiency bill written by Senator Jeanne Shaheen and Rob Portman. The most likely option is to hold a standalone vote. Pro-Keystone vote next week rather than as an amendment to the Shaheen-Portman bill. But the largest question remains unsettled, whether to make the vote a binding one or a toothless sense of the Senate resolution. Democrats debated these options during their caucus lunch on Tuesday and said Reid has met this week with Portman as well as Keystone backers, Senator Mary Landrieu and John Hoeven, in an effort to strike a deal. But Reid said Republicans keep moving the ball. Originally, it was going to be a sense of the Senate. Now they can't decide what they want to vote on, so I can't agree to something that I don't know what it is, Reid said. Now they want an up or down vote on a piece of legislation. They can't decide what it is. Pressed on whether he would allow a binding vote, Reid said, I'm open to anything that will move energy efficiency. That's not a good sign. So get ready. They're still wrangling in the Senate about a Keystone vote, which would, I guess, give Obama the pretext of saying, I'm just following the Senate's orders. Which Keystone XL, for those who don't know, is basically a pipeline that'll come from to export the Canadian tar sands. The pipeline will end in the Gulf Coast in Louisiana and provide oil mostly to China, so far it seems. And it will be game over for climate change. The effects of getting all that tar sands out of the ground will be irreversible, according to James Hansen over at NASA. Story number 2, Donald Sterling receives a lifetime ban. Apparently you can do that. Los Angeles Clippers owner Donald Sterling has been banned for life by the NBA in response to racist comments the league says he made in a recorded conversation. NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said he will try to force the controversial owner to sell his franchise. Sterling also was fined $2.5 million, and Silver made no effort to hide his outrage over the comments. I fully expect to get the support I need from the other NBA owners to remove him, Silver said. The rebuke, which came 3 days after the scandal broke, is the harshest penalty ever issued by the league and one of the stiffest punishments ever given to an owner in professional sports. Silver said a league Investigation found the NBA's longest tenured owner was in fact the person on the incendiary audio tapes released over the weekend. So there you go. He made racist comments about wasn't a fan of African Americans, which is an interesting position if you're in the NBA, and said he didn't want them brought to games by his, I guess then girlfriend, mistress, probably no longer girlfriend, mistress. So banned for life and a $2.5 million fine, and asked to sell his stake. And the number one story from yours truly, Fried Dog Lake. Kiev losing control of East Ukraine. I guess I would do that, right? That was completely crashing this thing. Reload. Okay, so the video there is of Svoboda, the neo-fascists in Ukraine, marching through the streets in Kiev with torches, holding the white supremacist banners. With presidential elections set to take place in late May, the government in Kiev is losing control of East Ukraine. Pro-Russia separatists have taken control of local police and administrative buildings and appear completely unwilling to submit to the authority of the gang in Kiev. Local authorities in East Ukraine were not only unable to prevent pro-Russia groups from taking control of government buildings, in some cases it appears that they were completely unwilling to oppose them. On Tuesday, 3,000 activists summoned mass military fatigue, stormed the regional government. Police supposed to guard the building let the crowd inside. So Kiev has been complaining. They're saying the regional leadership does not control its police force. There seems to be little promise that the interim government in Kiev has any hope of turning the situation around after a failed military assault and a complete inability to force local officials in East Ukraine to act. It seems Kiev is just another city in West Ukraine. Meanwhile, Soviet demonstrates its power in Kiev, and these elections that are happening May 22nd, so I guess 23 days from now. These are for the presidential elections for the guy they took out, the U.S., EU, and the reactionaries in Kiev took out, Yanukovych. I mean, we're very far away from these elections, politically speaking, time-wise, and a lot can happen in this interim period. So I wouldn't be so sure if we're going to have these elections or even going to occur, let alone occur without incident. And that is a top 10 of 10. If you have a story you'd like me to feature in the top 10 of 10, please tweet me at Dan S. Wright, and be sure to read all stories at firedoglake.com. Thanks for watching. See you later.